Today, let's make a quilted pot holder that's perfect for your kitchen or gifts for others. Welcome, I do sewing and DIY related content, and today we are making pot holders. So the first item you need for this is some heat resistant batting, or batting specifically made for pot holders and insulation. I got this one off of Amazon. It even includes a little instructions about using it for pot holders, and it does mention that if you want to use it for anything that'd be over 400 degrees, you should add some 100% cotton batting. So I have some of that too. Then you are going to want 2 pieces of cotton material. Now I'm going to be doing the front and back the same fabric, so I'm going to be using this Washington Nationals as this is going to be a Christmas gift, but you could definitely use holiday fabrics if you would like. Now the best part about this is there's going to be a full Etsy pattern available on my store, so be sure to check that out if you want more details and use code POTHOLDER30 for 30% off. So the first step is we are going to be cutting out our fabric. So you are going to want 2 pieces of 6 by 6 inch material. So I'm going to cut this out as 6 by 6 inches, but you could also make this a little bit larger if you want to do, and that would be an 8 by 8 inch square. I found that both turned out really nicely, and I'm going to be making both throughout this video. So first though, I'm going to be cutting out 2 pieces that are 6 by 6 inches for a square for the pot holder, the smaller size pot holder. As you can see, it's a really nice size pot holder, but a little bit bigger may allow you to hold heavier items, so I'm going to also do this 8 by 8 inch one too. So again, just cutting out those 2 pieces, so that square piece that is 8 by 8 inches. Once you have the cotton cut out, now we're going to start focusing on our batting. For that 8 by 8 inch pot holder, I am going to cut out an extra layer of this cotton batting, the 100% cotton batting, just so that I could make sure if I'm using this, especially a very hot pot, I would be okay, not to worry about burning myself. Once I have that cut out, I am then going to cut out my thermal batting, so I'm going to cut out one piece that is 6 by 6 inches, so that this can go with the 6 inch pot holder, and then I'm going to cut out another piece that is 8 by 8 inches. So the big thing to remember is whatever size pot holder you're using, you are going to be cutting out 2 pieces of cotton and at least 1 piece of batting, depending on the type of insulated batting you use. So now it is time to start assembling our pot holder. So I have my pieces of cotton here, so I'm going to take one piece and I'm going to lay it with the right side down, so the wrong side is facing up, and then I'm going to take my insulated batting and I'm going to put that onto my pot holder, and then I'm going to put the other piece of cotton with the right side facing up so that I have this sort of batting sandwich. So I have one piece of cotton, the batting, and then the other piece of cotton with the right sides both facing out. And this will be my first pot holder. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to trace out what my quilted pattern will be. So I'm going 1.5 inches from the edge, and I am just going to make a dashed line as I'm going to be creating a checkerboard style effect for the quilting. Then I'm going to go 1 inch past that line, and I'm just going to continue this all the way through, making these dashed lines so that they're 1 inch apart. And then when I get to the end, I'm going to leave that another 1.5 inches. And the reason that I'm adding that 1.5 inches on either edge is because we're going to be having the binding, and the binding is 1/2 inch binding, so that way it all looks nice and even and exactly how you'd want it to look. So now I'm just going to repeat this checkerboard effect going horizontally as well. So 1.5 inches from the top edge of the fabric, and then a 1 inch square all the way through. So just marking those 1 inch boxes, and then I can go ahead and quilt that. So now I'm going to repeat all of these steps for the bigger pot holder. So I have my right side of the fabric down. I am then going to add my 100% cotton batting to this. Then I'm going to add my insulated batting, and then I'm going to add that other piece of cotton material with the right side facing up. So the whole point of this is just to show you that whether you are only using the insulated batting or if you're using cotton batting, always be sure that you have the fabric on the outside of the batting, so you're making like this nice batting sandwich almost. Now I'm just going to repeat those exact same quilting steps that I did before, so marking 1.5 inches from the edge, and then taking a ruler and just marking 1 inch all the way through until I only have 1.5 inches of fabric left, and then repeating this on the horizontal as well, so going 1.5 inches down and then marking 1 inch all the way down the fabric until I only have 1.5 inches of fabric left. And now I am ready to quilt everything up. So now we're just going to go through and quilt all of this down. So all those lines that we just drew, I am just going to quilt right over top of it. So taking a straight seam and going all the way down that one line, and then repeating this all the way through. Now there's lots of different ways that you could do this, and this is not the only quilting pattern you could do. I just found that this gave it a really nice and neat touch. But if you could use decorative stitching, you could really use anything that you wanted to, as long as you're quilting all of these layers together so that they're sticking together and they're much more sturdy and durable. As you can see though, I got all 4 of those lines done. So now I'm just going to be repeating this for those other lines that I did. It's looking really good. You could definitely play around with different colors of thread for this to make it stand out more. Like I used the white thread instead of going with red, which may have matched the fabric a little bit more. So just to give it that nice contrast. So now I'm going to repeat all of these steps for this bigger pot holder so that I can have it done too. And now it is time to start working on the binding. So for the binding, you can buy this on your own. You can actually get packets of binding specifically for pot holders. You could get packets of double fold bias tape. I'm going to make my own double fold bias tape as I think that this is a really nice way to do it. There's so many different ways though that you can actually do the binding for a pot holder, so this is just one option. If you have another way that you're comfortable doing it, you could definitely follow that and you do not need to follow these steps. The first step though was to cut out a 2-inch wide piece of material that is however long is all the way around your pot holder. So if you're doing that 6 by 6 inch pot holder, you're going to want one probably around 26 inches, and if you are doing the 8 by 8, you probably want about 35 inches. Then you would turn this into bias tape with however you feel comfortable making bias tape, and you want it to be double fold bias tape. Next, you're going to take it and bring it over to your pot holder, and you're going to fold a small edge of it so that the wrong sides are together. And then we are going to unfold one edge, as you can see here, and I am just going to be pinning it up so that the right sides of the tape are together. Now, when I get to the corner, I'm going to very carefully fold it so that it is nice and flush on this corner. I almost have created a little triangle effect, and then I'm going to pin this in place. And then I'm going to continue working my way all the way around the pot holder, pinning the tape in place so that it is laying nice and flat and smooth. And I'm being cautious that when I get to those corners that I'm getting that nice triangle flap that I'm able to fold over one way or the other. Now when I get all the way back to the end, I'm going to cut off any extra bias tape that I have, and then I'm just going to lay it on top of that folded portion that we did before and just sew all the way around. So for this, I am now going to get to sewing it. So I'm going to start right after where those 2 pieces of bias tape came together, and then wherever that indentation for the first fold of bias tape is, I'm just going to begin sewing there. So I'm going to sew all the way down until I get to about 1/2 inch away from the edge, and then I'm going to put my needle down into the fabric. I am going to pivot my fabric 45 degrees, and then I'm just going to sew off into the corner. So the whole time I am not sewing over the flap, I am not sewing over any extra fabric. It should just be that one layer of your bias tape, and then with the pot holder underneath, and then I'm going to finish off that seam. Now I'm going to fold over the flap of material back to the other side for where I just sewed, and then I'm going to put this so that the needle is going into the corner, and I am now just going to sew directly down here. So here's another view of it. This is a different pot holder that I made, but basically as you can see, I'm starting from the corner. I'm going to lift the presser foot up, turn this 45 degrees, and then just continue sewing on my way so that I get that nice straight stitch. And then at each corner, I'm going to be repeating those steps. So this will allow you to get a really nice and neat looking corner without the fabric bulking up, and you'll have a really clean seam that will be able to then flip over when we do the finishing touches. Now when you get to the very end, what you're going to do is just sew these 2 pieces of bias tape on top of each other. So just very carefully continue sewing in that little ditch that we created from the fold, and then we're going to backstitch, and that will be complete. So here's just an example of the corner. So as you can see, you have that flap of fabric that we are able to now move one side or the other, and you see that we have those 2 stitches on either side, so we have that nice and neat corner seam. So now to completely finish this off, what I like to do is just fold over my bias tape, and then I hand sew all of this closed. So again, there are a lot of different ways that you can finish off a pot holder, that you can finish off binding like this. I just think that this gives it a really nice and neat and visible looking finish, as you don't really see the stitches this way, but there are other ways that you can do it where you do finish it off just all using a sewing machine, and I'll be sure to link a couple of those just in case you're interested. If this is of interest to you to do it this way, be sure that you are knotting off your thread at the beginning and just take very tiny and visible stitches all the way through while you are doing like almost a whip stitch type effect, and this will give you a really nice and clean way to finish off your binding. Then when you get to the corner, what you can see is you can then just fold down that other corner portion, and then you just sew all this closed, and this will give you a really nice and neat effect, and that's because of the way that we sewed it on the front. And then you don't have to really worry about the corner seeming extra bulky. It's just going to lay nice and smooth and will give you a really nice professional finish. So now I'm just going to go through for the rest of this and sew it off, and then when I get to the end, I will be just taking a little knot. Now, if at some point you do want to add a little ribbon, something to hang the pot holder, I just grabbed some ribbon and I just poked it into one of the corners since there is that little fabric flap, and I'm just going to be hand sewing this on. So again, just very carefully attaching the ribbon through the pot holder so that it has something to hang on to. This is completely optional and you do not need to do this though. And with that, your pot holders are complete. Remember, there is an Etsy pattern that has even more information if you want more on how to put these together. They're such a fun and easy gift, and they are perfect for accessorizing your kitchen. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.